Excellent, thank you. Great to sort of have that introduction from Roger, thank you. That sort of saves a lot of the groundwork. I'm going to talk about SURE, as we call it, and just note first that SURE is supported by the Population Health Research Network, which is another NCRIS facility, and it also receives support from the New South Wales Government. I'd also like to just acknowledge the Wallamedigal people of the Eora Nation. I'm up in northwestern Sydney, and I'd like to acknowledge them as the first peoples and traditional owners of the land on which I'm located. So, sure, what does it give to researchers? There we go. Basically, as Roger pointed out, it gives researchers access to linked unit record level health and human services data that wouldn't otherwise be available from data custodians without the use of a trusted research environment. It allows researchers to access the remote desktop from any location in Australia, allowing collaboration from multiple sites. It allows high performance computing and GPUs, as well as the analysis programs that researchers and policy analysts prefer to use. It offers competitive fees and a flexible fee structure and is a turnkey solution. So when a researcher comes to use SURE after application and approval, the environment is ready to go with secure logins provided and data custodians uploading the data directly to SURE. I think Roger probably covered why we need trusted research environments, so I'd only say that, in a sense, a trusted research environment is a risk mitigation tool. It helps data custodians meet their legislative and regulatory requirements for the release of data. In our case, we also require that users have approval from a Human Research Ethics Committee and, of course, the data custodians. And of course, I think Roger covered this, but even with de-identified data, once data is linked, there is always the possibility of re-identification or, in fact, statistical disclosure. And the impact on any sort of data breach on research would be very significant in terms of limiting the data that researchers could access. So, of course, our TREs give data custodians and ethics committees that confidence that the data will be used appropriately and in line with the approvals that they've made in granting access to the data. SURE's been around since 2011 and in fact was established at the Sax Institute by Professor Louisa Jorm, who I think you'll shortly hear from. Since that time, there's been more than 1,400 researchers use SURE. There's currently over 750 using it with 328 projects underway. Generally, it's academic researchers who are using SURE, but there are, of course, policy analysts in government agencies and, of course, some private industry. That private industry tends to be people working on behalf of government agencies. With such a long history, there are now over 40 data custodians, so that's custodians rather than data sets, 40 different custodians from every state and territory in Australia, including the Australian government. There's lots of varied data, including health, tax and social services data available in SURE. I think that's probably a key point for researchers. Having a TRE deal with the approval of the data custodians for data security is really a great thing. It means that you can say to a data custodian or an ethics committee that you're using a particular TRE and they're likely to already have confidence that that covers off a lot of the information security and data governance issues. SURE is increasingly being used to house and share enduring linked data assets, which are a fantastic development in Australia, and I'll talk a little bit more about them later, but we're working really hard to realise the benefits of those linked data assets for researchers in enabling trusted user governance models, meaning that there are fewer restrictions placed on researchers when using broader and larger data sets. SURE's a national open access system, which means anyone can come and use it. as long as you have the appropriate approvals from data custodians and ethics committees. And it was designed that way as part of the Population Health Research Network. It's an Australian-wide system. We even have occasionally international users collaborating with Australian researchers, and the technology supports that. I'm proud to say we've got some great advanced analytics capability. I should say also, all of our hardware stack is owned and operated by the Sax Institute. It's in a secure data centre here in Sydney. And again, that really is important under the Privacy Act, because it means the data itself doesn't leave Australia. And it's great to have the advanced computing abilities are being used at the moment by people doing image analysis of echocardiograms and validating whether manufacturer AI flagging programs for abnormalities are mimicked or are validated by clinicians. And we're also using them to do some image analysis of retinal scans as a indicator of heart health. I think we could probably skip this one. The only, given what Roger said, and I think the only sort of relevant part of this might be that a recent agreement between the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare and the Sax Institute enables SURE to hold data released under the Data Availability and Transparency Act. There isn't a lot of data being released through the DAT Act yet, but that which is fairly significant. So we're really happy to be able to do that. And of course, we're able to access through NCRIS, and this would be similar for other facilities, and through the Population Health Research Network, great support from the Australian government for operational and capital funding to keep developing our research environments as data gets bigger and bigger, more and more linkage, and of course, more and more advanced analytic techniques being applied. How does it work? Every research project gets its own secure workspace. We use Citrix to deploy virtual machines which allow access to the workspace. The virtual machines generally are standard Windows virtual machines, and so would look very much like your local computer, more than likely. Linux virtual machines are available. We've got a lot of power available, and that's just in our standard types. We can really give people a lot of RAM and a lot of CPUs if they're able to use them. And our virtual machines come with the standard analysis applications, including SAS, Stata, R, and Python. Data minimization and data separation are really important principles that custodians and ethics committees apply. So it's important that that workspace has its own security perimeter, and people can't combine the data in one workspace with data in another. It really is part of the fundamental sort of tenets of protecting privacy with unit record data. I do think enduring linked data assets may start to sort of break down some of those restrictions in time. Everything happens on our dedicated servers in our data centre. Nothing is transferred outside of SURE until such time as the researcher wants to remove the results of the analysis. The only way that data comes in or out of SURE is through the curated gateway. It's a software application we run which fulfills that airlock function that Roger described. So onto the governance, of course, information security and data governance are the two most sort of important parts of any research environment. So we are ISO 27001 accredited. That's been a really valuable program to be a part of. Constant improvement in our processes. Of course, we also get independent penetration testing from experts. And as with, I think, any TRE, there's multi-factor authentication. And in our case, we issue client-side SSL certificates. It's not that important, perhaps, except that it provides a way of making sure that the average user of the internet can't find the SURE site or access it and cause cause issues with things like distributed denial of service attacks. And of course, anything that's being moved into or out of shore through the curated gateway is logged and approved. The CG is a web-based application. More and more with the curated gateway, it is data custodians themselves who are choosing to do the curation, and curation normally means checking the data that's going into a workspace to make sure it complies with ethics approvals. And then checking data that's coming out of the workspace, which would normally be in the form of tables or figures, to make sure that the researchers have suppressed small cell sizes and ensured that there's no chance of statistical disclosure. It's really common that the custodians now want to do that review themselves. And for that reason, and because they're often in multi-jurisdictional projects and linkage across different custodians, we've recently upgraded the curated gateway so it supports multiple modes of curation. It just means that each custodian can have a power of veto over information coming in and out. And I know that sounds very restrictive. I hope our environments aren't quite as painful as Roger might have suggested, but this is another control that custodians need to be able to apply to release the data in the first place. Data governance. So Roger talked about the 5 safes. In our case, the way that somebody comes to use Shore is really important, principally because approvals are important. The specification of the research questions is really important, but also it's the behaviour of users that still determines a lot about how well or poorly your information security systems ultimately work. So we do require approvals from custodians and ethics committees. We also require a deed poll from every user and also require that they complete a compulsory information and data security training. That deed poll gives us a means of enforcing expected standards of behaviour when people are using Shore. So yes, you can't access the internet, you can't copy information to your local drive. We can control those things with technology, but there are other behaviours such as, for instance, taking out your phone and taking a screenshot of the data on which you're working, where it's really important that we ensure that users understand their responsibilities and that they comply with those responsibilities. We have an information security management system that's part of our ISO accreditation that provides a control under safe settings, and the curated gateway, as I've described, provides a control under safe outputs. We offer support for Shore. I said it was a turnkey solution. That means our technical support team builds the workspaces, the virtual machines, makes sure that users have the software that they need. We also have an operational support team to help with gaining access to Shore, the applications, quoting, contract management, and just ticking off and making sure that all those approvals and responsibilities are met. Our technical support team, and I've put the FTE in there partly as a guide for others as to what it takes to operate a secure environment like Shore. We've got 5 great technical support people at various levels, and tech support for us is available during business hours. So yeah, we can do all sorts of things. We can put database servers inside Shore. We can enable AI projects. It's not the large language model generative online AI from the previous question. It will tend to be user developed programs, in fact, used in Shore. Our approach to fees is that we operate on a cost recovery basis. The Population Health Research Network gives us really significant financial support on an operational level, which means that researchers pay lower fees than it actually costs us to operate, which is fantastic. Our fees are known and fixed. Because we operate our own equipment, we know and can work out how to price our services so that we can pay for our equipment and periodically update it as it reaches the end of its life. for 2 researchers, a year in Shore with standard virtual machines would cost about $6,000. We can also share virtual machines between researchers to further reduce cost, and that means that each virtual machine is only available to one person at a time. But if you've got episodic, periodic use from researchers who can coordinate, then you can save a lot of money by sharing a virtual machine. We can also give burst computing requirements. This is something that you might expect from a commercial cloud service or potentially from Nectar, the ability to dial up and dial down computing power as needed. We find users need lots of RAM and CPU, mainly RAM in fact, at those periods where they're getting new data or updated data and they're doing those really large data management operations before subsetting down to research data sets. So we can do that for a month. It's very cost effective and it saves people an enormous amount of time not having to wait for operations to complete.
Matt, you've got 1 minute.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. I'm nearly there. Thank you, Wendy. That's good. What we've learned from operating Shore, researchers need a lot of flexibility to align with work patterns. And I've mentioned the things that we've done to respond to that. If you go on holidays for 6 months, you can suspend your workspace and not pay money to continue using it. We've got a choice of analysis software and lots of ability. Hundreds of non-standard software applications have been installed in Shore now. I talked about the advanced analytics techniques. We've just enabled high performance computing as well. What we've learned is that different people want to apply high performance computing and GPUs in very different ways. So they become custom projects that require quite a lot of work from our technical team to make sure that we're giving people the tools they need to use those techniques. I've mentioned user behaviour. It's super important when it comes to information security and statistical disclosure. And SREs can't control every possible risk. There is an increasing number of trusted research environments around. I'm sorry, SREs are just secure research environments. I might have mixed up my initialisms there. So that's great for researcher choice to have a lot of TREs available. It does pose some questions about both the data integration and system interoperability, which I think we're coming to terms with in Australia, and I think it is a good thing that we have multiple available TREs. And just that last point, I really hope that the rise of enduring linked data assets like the National Health Data Hub, for instance, at the AHW, I really hope that these regularly linked assets will provide researchers with an opportunity to access data more quickly. And I think that TREs over time have a role to play in increasing the level of trust that custodians have in researchers to act appropriately within larger, broader data sets where data minimisation, that is limiting to just the variables and records you need for a particular research question, in time may start to become a less onerous issue and a less restrictive issue for researchers. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matt.
I was stop sharing for
incredibly
questions.
thorough and oh, is Matt gone?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're
My
here.
presentation's
Fantastic.
gone.
Oh, you've
just
suddenly
can't
gone
see
off the
my
screen.
face.
I'm sure
Sorry.
there'll be some questions in the room. At the back.
Sorry, me again, from the UK. I was just wondering, Matthew, if you could just probably just describe for me the typical type of user that consumes the infrastructure that you provide. Could you explain sort of what type of researcher they are and what type of project they're running?
That's a good question. I think by and large, as I said, they'll be academic researchers. They'll generally be epidemiologists or otherwise biostatisticians, public health professionals. That would be, I think, representative of about 80% of our users. There's a lot of use by, as I say, government officers, policy analysts in all the states and territories will come and use Shore. So I think, does that answer the question, or was there something more in that question.
Question
on
is
this.
answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question, real quick one? Have you got any state health databases using it? Or like any state EMRs using Sure?
No, not electronic medical records at the moment. We have not EMRs in the way I think you're referring to them. So from every state and territory, we have what I'd describe as administrative health data, which is typically things like emergency department presentations, hospital admissions, notifiable diseases. There's all sorts of state and territory health data in Sure, but not electronic medical records. And really, Sure is designed to be a research environment. It's for de-identified data, it's not designed to be something that supports operational uses of data.
Right, thank you.
Again, thank you very much, Matt. That's fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, go for it. If you just wait 1 second, Matt. One more question in the room.
Matt, how do you keep the data safe from the people working in the Sax Institute themselves? Like, do you encrypt the virtual machines or encrypt the disks where data is stored?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. The disks are definitely encrypted. So that's right, by design, and this is part of our information security management system. This is what ISO 27001 does for you in a way. It makes you put in place procedures. So our tech people can't access the data. They don't have permissions that allow them to access the data. That's by design. And if there's an exception to that, where they need to grant themselves permission to access the data, that's first approved in writing by the data custodian and the chief investigator of the project, and is logged. So there's lots of systems around that.
One more quick one. We're letting him sneak in.
Thank you, Andy. Stephen McDonald. So my question, Matt, is thinking forward and building on the question before the last about the data that's insured. Now, New South Wales are moving to a statewide EMR. Where are discussions about where that data will lie? So, for example, I'm a New South Wales hospital clinician. I want to use that data not for operational reasons, but perhaps for smaller scale research or quality improvement. Is the intent that Sure will be the repository for I think it's Cerner you're putting in when it's installed?
That's something I can't comment on. I'm not part of the Ministry of Health, and I don't know what their intentions are.
It's a really interesting question for us because we're thinking about those things as well because we have the statewide EMR. So thanks, Stephen. Yeah. Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everyone. They were fantastic questions. And thank you, Matt.